Great.
All right, Catherine, go ahead.
Thank you. This is Catherine McClure, Superintendent of Schools of the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union. And this evening is the organizational meeting of the SVSU School District Supervisory Union Board of Directors. And I welcome you all here tonight. We have some alternate SU members with us, but what I'd like to do is go around the room and introduce ourselves. Cindy, would you start?
Cindy Brownell from Pownell.
Ken Schwer at Bennington.
George Sleeman, Bennington.
Paul Becker, Bennington, alternate.
Dick France, Woodford.
Larry Johnson, Jasper. Richard Pump, the recording secretary.
Rick Pembroke, CFL.
Frank Barnes, Director of Educational Technology.
Ray Molyneux, North Bennington Graded School District.
Jim O'Connor, Pownell.
Ava Spruce Hurley, Woodford.
David Durfee, MAU.
Fran Kinney, Shasberry.
Leon Johnson, North Bennington, Mount Anthony.
And Donna Leap, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. We have mostly returning members to the SU Board, but we have two new members to the SU Board, David Durfee representing Mount Anthony and Dick France representing Woodford. So thank you very much. This is the reorganization meeting, and nominations are in order for the chair of the SVSU Board of Directors. Nominations are open. Are there any nominations for chair?
I'll nominate Ken Sweard.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations?
I'll nominate Cindy Brownell.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations?
Move closed nominations.
Second.
Thank you. Nominations are closed. Will be by ballot. And Richard, would you help me count ballots after the votes are complete?
Could we have a little something to say before we take a vote?
Sure.
Maybe by the two
Go ahead,
people.
Leon.
Well, I wanted the two individuals to say something about what they plan to do and how they plan to do some things that will give anybody an opportunity to make a thorough decision, because this is not a matter to be taken lightly, and I wanted to make sure that everybody realized what they're getting, and we want to move this district forward. And we need to make sure that the two people speak and any other board members speak before we have them cast a vote along that line. That's all I wanted to do, to say that.
I'll go first. I think it's time for some new blood. I think it's a real important time for the SVSU. We're at a crossroads right now. We need a new superintendent. A few of us were at the meeting on Tuesday when we interviewed Mr. Betancourt, and he was giving us timelines, information, and he said that we should be looking not to hire a superintendent in the next several months. It would be impossible. He says what you're going to have to do is get yourself a intern for at least maybe a year, and in the meantime then run a search for a superintendent. He recommended that we get someone from Vermont to do that. He said he wouldn't be qualified because of the convoluted system of governance we have in this state. We're better off having someone from the state of Vermont helping us out, who would know the rules and could speak to the individual thing. I think that we're going to have to bring in a person that's someone that's going to bring people together. And again, in just a few comments, we have a young lady here who's got an early ed award from the state as being one of the top educators in the state for early ed. We got Rick here, who we've gotten year after year. We've got outstanding audits. We got a brand new SPED director, temporary, who looks like she's really on the ball and doing an outstanding job. We have a new HR person on board, and I think we're going to have to find a superintendent here who's going to bring all those assets together. And I'd like to be part of that team, because I think we've got the real good quality people. I think we just want to make sure they work as one, and I think we can bring this SVSU forward. And I think that's would be one of my main goals. And we also have the new teacher contract that's coming up, and they haven't even meeting yet, I can't believe it. With the contract ending June 30th, that gives them 3 months to solve a contract with a one-payer health system lagging behind and stuff like that. So I think it's important that we have someone, and I'm willing to roll my sleeves up and give as much as I can to make this SVSU move forward and do the best I can.
That was very good, Ken. I too believe that we are in dire need of a new superintendent, and we need to go forward as fast as we possibly can. We are a very convoluted district. I like to look at the district, the SU, as every district working together. Our children are all one. It's not just one individual school. I think it's important that the boards, all the boards need to work towards the same goal, our children in our districts. And one of the main things is the superintendent. That would be our first important thing to move forward with. And getting all the board members to work together, one goal. Because we were here for the same reason, the children. And I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you both. I'll collect ballots. I'll give you a minute to think about the marks
When you're finished.
as you make your decisions.
Glad to see we're saving on paper. Who's here, 11?
A long time to count 11.
How many people voting on it?
Richard, would you like to record the vote?
Ken Swear got 6 votes, Cindy got 5.
Thank you. And thank you both for coming forward.
Okay, next item on the agenda will be the nominations for vice chair.
Ken, excuse me, would
I'll
you
sit here.
sit here so that I can?
I'll sit here.
Well, then I'm going to sit over there.
No, I'll move.
Oh, that's all right, Cindy. No. All right, thanks. It's just easier if the superintendent is sitting next to the board chair. Thank you. Thanks. So we're,
Okay, next item on the agenda is the nominations for vice chair. Nominations are open.
I nominate Larry Johnson.
Okay, we have Larry Johnson. Anybody else?
a second.
Nominate Cindy Brownell.
Nominate Cindy Brownell.
I'd like to nominate Frank Kenny.
Fran Kenny. Okay, we got 3. Anybody else?
I'll make a
Question?
motion.
Can I ask a question? With 3 candidates, they still need 6 votes, or how's that going to work? If you-
Majority.
Majority.
So whoever gets 4,
Do all 3 candidates wish to continue and accept the nominations?
I choose not to accept.
Okay, then we have 2.
So who are our candidates now?
Cindy?
Cindy and me.
And Frank Kenny?
they need to be seconded?
I didn't hear a second.
When any second, I mean,
I'll second it.
Okay, let's, Ken, do you want to take it back?
Okay, we have Cindy And we need a second for Cindy.
Second.
Okay, we have Fran. We have a second for Fran.
Second.
Second, okay. Now we have two candidates.
He's on the other side.
I'm sorry.
That's right, I did it.
That's okay. Actually, I've never had it.
Thanks, sir.
Oh, thank you.
The vote was 6 for Francini and 5 for Cindy Brunel.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you to all
Now-
the candidates.
Now the most glamorous job, the board clerk.
I'll nominate Dave Durfee.
Second? Okay.
Third.
Any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, I think we should vote by acclamation. Dave Durfee, congratulations.
If he would accept.
You want to accept it?
No one else wants to do it?
No.
Leon?
It's usually,
I wanted it to go to Al night, but I didn't get his attention, so I did that.
No.
Are you all set, David?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
thank
All
you
right,
for
thank
serving,
you.
yeah.
We have the presentation now.
Someone.
So we accept on, accept
Presentation.
the single nomination. We gotta accept it,
vote?
vote on it.
I'd like to, at this point, on this number 2,
We haven't done,
if it's agreeable with the board, we've got a pretty full agenda tonight, and I would like to ask if we could, excuse me,
we didn't vote
acclamation, he said.
Acclamation. There's only one person running.
here, that's what I was waiting
Yeah.
for. Okay.
I'd like to ask the supervisory union if it would be willing to not skip that item, but to move it down to the bottom so that we could get this, we got a lot of business to do tonight, and I'd like to get into that first, and then come back and watch our presentation at the end of the meeting, rather than take it right now. We've got some items there that
He's not here?
No, he's not here. That's what I was mentioning. On Tuesday, we had a Skype with the gentleman. There was myself, Larry, no, excuse
Larry
me,
wasn't.
Fran was there, and
Tim Holbrook.
Tim Holbrook, and Ray was there.
I can explain. He was scheduled to be here through GoToMeeting this evening, but because of the snowstorms in Massachusetts, he had a client that had to reschedule a meeting that had been canceled because of snow. I learned of this on Monday at 10:15 a.m. and asked if he would be willing to tape the presentation because this is a time-sensitive matter. And he was willing to tape at 11 on Tuesday, and so I invited board chairs to come and sit with me while we tape the presentation. So the presentation is on the superintendent search, as George and Ken have described. So if you wish to move it, Ken, if they wish to move
It's
it.
up to the supervisor. I just think that
I
I'd
make a
like to
motion,
get,
we move it, or whatever it is. Yeah, that's fine. I make that motion.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, we'll move that to the end. Okay,
comments.
now, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
Hi, my name is Jean Pasnell, and I'm a Bennington resident. Congratulations, Ken, on
Thank you.
your new position. You know, you talked about all the wonderful changes that the district has made, and I commend that. And then I look at this policy draft for public participation at board meetings, and I have red flags that are raised. I'm not going to take up a lot of time, but in a nutshell, what this is telling me is, you're welcome to come to our board meetings. You can talk about what is on the agenda. If you talk too long or it's not on the agenda, you're probably going to get shut down. And if you have a problem with communication throughout the district or the board, and you're not getting your needs addressed, that you're supposed to go through the communication protocol. And that's where the problem is. The communication protocol, it's not there. The links in the chain don't exist. So that's when parents come to you and say, listen, I just want you to know that there's problems. You know, there's a problem here and it's not being addressed. And what I would like to know, thank you, is what prompted the change in the public participation to begin with, since you don't really have a lot of people coming and pounding down your door. How do parents get their concerns addressed if they can't come to the board and let you know, and the communication protocol has failed? And how is the board going to be able to make, to be aware that the communication protocol has failed if a parent can't come here and let you know what a problem is? And when is the policy going to be placed on the agenda item at a next board meeting? So those are my questions that I have regarding this particular policy, this draft, and I would really like you guys to reconsider looking this over.
Well, normally, that anything that's on the agenda, that's when you have to speak to that issue. Anything that's not on the agenda you'd like to bring up, this is the time that you bring it up during citizens' comments. The chain of command stuff, I'm not how that works myself. We do have the chairman of the policy committee here, Leon, and his meetings are open to the public. What days do you meet, Leon?
The next meeting is the...
April 7th is the next meeting.
April 7th is the next meeting. They meet at central office in the downstairs, is it?
A new board, I don't know whether that's true or not.
It is.
But again, everybody is welcome.
I'm the chair.
Oh,
So-
yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Because what happens is, I think you may know how this works, that we get a policy, and then it's warned, and after the warning, then citizens or board members can go to the meeting and make comments, or during the citizens' comment, you make comments, and then hopefully they will take those under consideration and adjust the policy before it comes back for a final vote.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and I just, want to make sure that you guys are aware of what is actually being written in this policy, that I feel that it's taken away from your knowledge of what's going on in your district.
We have to depend on good people like yourself to keep us on our toes, really.
Thanks a lot, Ken, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do you want to come back to committee assignments?
Hi there. Name is Lori Mulhern, Bennington resident. I had a couple of questions for the board. Questions and/or comments. One of them is for the Mosaic program. I just wanted to let the board know that that's a fantastic program. So many children benefit from that program. And I saw recently that in the documents attached to the board agenda this evening that there's a lot of feedback on expanding the program, and I'm really hopeful that they receive the grant that they've applied for. This program allows students to have some sort of extracurricular activity that is very creative and very unusual and not always offered through other means. Like just recently, fencing was one of the programs, and that's sort of unique. It's not like we have fencing available on a regular basis. So I just wanted to share with the board that continued support for that program is really warranted. I think they've proven that it's very effective for our community and for our children and for our families. That's one. The second thing is that I do agree with Ms. Paisano's comments about the new policy on public comment. I feel it's very restrictive. If we can't come to the board and share our thoughts, or, it is like, I'm one of the regulars, but not a whole lot of people come forward, and if they are taking the time, I feel that it should be an open communication, not having to prepare documents in advance or to submit them for approval prior to discussion. Third thing is I'm going to speak about is the transportation contract that is on the agenda for this evening. I feel that it lacks provisions for special needs students in regards to bus aides and bus driver certification and transporting special needs. And I wish that that contract could be reviewed a little more closely for accommodating special needs students, because I feel it lacks in a few areas. And if you want specifics, I'd be happy to provide them. But that's what I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We did miss you the last month or two.
I know. I was on sabbatical.
I would just like, for a point of, you were on sabbatical, thank you, Lori. Just for a point of clarification to the policy on public participation, the provisions that you mentioned have been taken out at the policy committee, the written documents ahead and all of that. The committee felt that it was restrictive as well, and so those have been taken out already. It is on the agenda for April 7th.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Come down to committee assignments. Oh, first a motion on warning for the warrants to be signed by officers.
What? Okay, we need a motion, just like all our regular board meetings, that if, like in the month of July, we have no meeting, we have the chair or the vice chair or the clerk give permission to go in and sign the warrants for that period.
So move.
Second.
Second it.
Second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Okay, thank you. On the idea of different committees, and again, we're busy tonight. I would appreciate it if all of you would send to me any of the committee assignments, personnel, search, negotiations. There's a lot of different ones that you may be interested in. If you're not sure what's available, I think you contact central office and they'll let you know. And just send me an email, and at the next meeting, we'll assign people to the various committees. But when it comes, I think, for the search committee, for the superintendent, I really like to have one person, at least from every board. I know it didn't happen last time. I think a couple boards were not represented, but I think, since this person's going to be your director for your district as well as the SU, that you should have input into the search, and your time and your knowledge is valuable to the group. So we'll name individuals, and again, we'll have to find out who's interested in that and move along with that as quick as possible.
So Ken, if I might just say what the committees are. There's Policy Committee, Food Service Committee, ESP negotiations, the administrative negotiations, and then the board chair would also be appointing Finance Committee and Personnel Committee and the Superintendent Search Committee. In the meantime, I'd like to come back to, if you will, Ken, the Teacher Negotiation Committee, because that committee begins negotiating with teachers this next week. And David Durfee has been back up for Fran and the Shaftesbury Board, but he's now a member of the SU Board. We do not have a member of the SU Board. I wonder if you and the board members might entertain to have David represent the SU Board. It's really a discussion for you all.
I have no problem with Dave and talking with him. I think he's a very fair person. He'll judge the issues as they come. Anybody have any problem with Dave?
Or questions about it?
SU questions? For being our representative?
I make a motion, we appoint David to represent us at the...
I'll second it.
A motion and a second to appoint Dave for the SVSU rep to teacher negotiations. The only thing I'm worried about is time. Do you have...
Yeah, thanks for asking, Ken. I blocked off Thursday afternoons.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All in favor of the motion then for Dave? Again, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then we can go to finance.
Okay, so the committees that you want to let me know about are policy, food service, negotiate, we got the ESP, and the administrators. Isn't there one about certification that they need to, no?
Finance and personnel
someone.
and superintendent search.
We'll name those after.
We'll email you the committee. Ken and I will email you all the committees, and then you can respond to him directly.
Ken,
Yes.
excuse me. Question is for Catherine. Catherine, could you send to the board every cell phone and
Yes,
phone
please.
of all board members? Unless there's somebody that doesn't want it to go out, because there's some that we don't have, and we end up looking in books and everything else for them.
Yeah.
So if there's someone that doesn't want it, but I just think it's handy for all board members to have each other's telephone numbers.
Actually, Mary Lee has finalized all of the local board contact sheets with your emails, your telephone numbers, and addresses, and those compile into the SU now that you've been reorganized, and so we can email that whole entire list out. And what I would say is that home lines and cell phones are on there as the individuals wish to share them. So I think that would be the document to send out, and we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, number 5 on the agenda, financial operational related. First, A, Treasurer's Report, February 2014.
Motion to accept.
Do we have a motion to accept that?
Second it.
Motion second. Questions? All in favor? Okay, Ken?
I'll abstain.
Abstain, Mr. France. Okay, next on the item is transportation bid.
Yeah, hopefully everyone received in their packet on the web, email, however you receive your notification. There's 3 documents, one large document, which is the RFP itself. And there's a little confusion in there. If you took the time to try to read through there was a number of different proposals. As required by statute now, it is this board's obligation to manage transportation, whatever that means. So it is the obligation of this board to make a decision on transportation matters. So in here, we built options for the typical 3 that are in Mount Anthony, BSD, and Shasberry. We added a second option for Pownell. Third option that doesn't affect you, BBSU requested, while we were going out for bid, if we would also go out and see if there was any suitors for them. That was in there. That's a separate issue. Again, if you read through it and saw the bids, we received 1 bid from Dufour. They only bid option number 1, which is the current contract for Mount Anthony, BSD, and Shasberry. The bid came in extremely favorable, even though there was only 1 bid. Part of our success in creating a document and interest, if you see the summary sheet I put together, we had a number of people that were interested in the bidding. For whatever reason, only 1 bid. However, it created enough of competition that we got a very competitive bid, and in fact, this bid actually saves those 3 districts combined over $70,000 over the next 3 years. Partly as a result of the competition that we created, as well as we took some regular unusual runs, i.e. Testing at the middle school and high school that are half days that used to be additional charges. We built them into the base bid, and they absorbed those costs at no charge. So we were able to save that money right off the bottom line. So if you see through the summary, I'm recommending that you award the bid to Dufour for the fiscal years 15, 16, and 17. and I'm hoping someone can make that motion. I will answer any questions that anybody may have.
How do you
I'll
calculate
move
the
it.
savings?
I move that we
Okay, we have a motion.
accept the number.
Accept and a second. Okay, now discussion. Jim?
A question, at the top here you say qualified firms, is that a statutory definition of qualified? You used the phrase,
I don't know what you mean by statutory. Qualified firms, there were some qualifications in the bid. They had to be able to provide the number of vehicles, they had to have enough experience in the business, they needed to have a depot in a certain radius of the community.
My question is there a Vermont statute that describes qualified bus vendor?
No.
Writer?
No.
Okay. And I assume in the second to the last sentence, the I is you.
Excuse me?
You say, "I recommend," but it doesn't have a...
Yes.
That's you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Ray had a question of how I calculated the savings. I know the expenses to date for those regular unusual runs, and I projected forward for a few costs that we have not yet seen. It'll be in excess of $70,000 of extra billing we won't see next year. Because all they did was gave us a 2.5, or actually 2.33% increase over this year's base bid. Then we would get additional costs on top of that for those additional runs. We will no longer see those additional costs.
So you saved them right off the top, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, Dave?
Just wondering about what happens to Pownell, and you mentioned, Rick, that we have an obligation of some sort to manage the, so does our obligation continue and we have to work with Pownell, or?
Well, technically, I mean, Pownell runs their own buses.
They do now.
They have their own buses, they have their own bus drivers. It's loosely written into the statute, but it is clear enough that it is this board's responsibility to take action. If someone bid on Pownell, that'd be another conversation we'd be having.
Certainly would be. Yes, I guarantee it.
I was just wondering if Pownell had entered into that, and I realize you want your own buses, I understand that. What would the difference be on the bottom line?
I don't know. I mean,
okay.
without them bidding and adding.
But you'd have to have their map, their footprint of all their runs and stuff, though. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I mean, I need someone,
wondered.
I need someone to bid a price so I could determine what that would be.
Okay, gotcha.
Ken, I wanted to ask Rick, in regard to the question that Lori brought up pertaining to special services, have we answered the question that she brought up?
I don't know the specifics that she's talking about. The special ed department did review the RFP before it went out. We did add in there a confidentiality area in the contract. It doesn't mean we can't amend something if something is brought to our attention, but I don't know specifically what she's looking for.
Let's find out. Ask Lori.
I can just share, it's under item M. I noticed that you had drivers as far as special training on disabilities. And I know that, from what I understand, the contractor is actually in charge of hiring the aides on the buses. And I didn't know if there needed to be a specific clause regarding aides, or is drivers all inclusive of any employee of the company? And I also was...
M as in Mary?
M as...
Is that what you said?
Yes, I believe it's item M.
Is it 7M?
7M. Yeah, it just says drivers must participate, but
Yeah.
the key thing is
We-
that a lot of aides are put on the buses to support those
We-
students with special needs.
We can easily amend that to either staff or drivers and aides.
That's fine, I just,
That's not a big deal.
okay. And the other issue, and I think it's being addressed by special ed, and Wendy can confirm or not, and that was just in regards to, sometimes there needs to be some coordination between, the IEP teams or the schools and these individuals. And I know we have, we're trying to establish some sort of procedure or protocol on that, and I didn't know whether that, had to be part of this or not. So.
No, there's a couple catchphrases in there that basically say the district has total control. So they need to do what we tell them to do, if that's your question.
I just want to make sure that we just, support them as much as we can, within reason. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the new 3-year contract with Dufers? Raise your hand. Okay. Abstain?
Abstaining.
Okay. Mr. France abstaining.
Thank you.
Consent agenda?
Okay, consent agenda. Okay, consent agenda.
Make a motion.
Thank you. We have a motion to accept the
Second.
consent agenda. Second. Okay, there's
Wait a
none.
minute, Ken.
Question?
Jim?
On the nominations, I have no problem with the we're showing no nominations on the consent agenda, but there's 2 nominations in the packet. What's that all about? A and B.
I can explain.
Yep.
I have no problem with the nominations.
Yeah. So you will recall that at your last meeting, Rick had asked for a motion for vacancies that were current, that were in need of immediate filling, and there was a motion under Act 153, under the statute that's referenced here, to have the superintendent move ahead with those 2 hires, and by the 16 VSA 242(3)B, the superintendent does have the authority to hire non-certified, non-professional staff. And so after a extensive, I'll say, search for both of these positions and recommendations from the department chairs, we went ahead and hired the 2 members. So the nomination forms are there as an FYI, so you can see the terms in which they've been hired.
Okay. And then I just would like to make a point. 242B, the exact word, again, I'm not going to object to anything, I just want to clarify. The exact word is the superintendent, okay, and I get the word shall select non-licensed employees to be employed by the district or supervisory union. Then below it says they can dismiss licensed and non-licensed.
Right.
I find the turn of phrase, select to be employed, rather cumbersome, and why wasn't it just said hired or employed? I wonder what the original intent of that was, and maybe
Yeah, I
Lori
understand.
might have something to say about that.
I understand, and I certainly can have, take another look at that with council, but the motion was actually to have the superintendent hire. That was the wording. I think it's in the motions,
Well,
Richard.
I'm not objecting
No,
to
I
what
know.
happened. I just find that that's referenced in the
We'll
future.
have it clarified. That's
It's
fine.
really a difficult, select to be employed. And then right below it, it says dismissed,
Sure.
licensed and non-licensed.
It's a new part of the law, so I think it makes sense to have it clarified.
Okay.
So
Strange
you're
words.
referring to statutory language.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't change it.
No, but we
I'm
can
just
have the
saying,
meaning clarified.
Does it say what, as far as the authority to hire? It might not say that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
George?
Jim, on another item, on this, I have a question, and I leave it up to you and the superintendent as to whether it should be an executive session or not.
Should be.
But it's not a negative,
No,
but I
it
need
isn't.
clarification on a point that has to be brought up, and
Executive session, she said.
I'd like it in the executive session before we act on that.
All right.
Well, you're not acting on it, but yes, the executive
Yes.
session.
Yeah.
We can act on this because it has nothing to do with what you're talking about.
Right, right,
Just
and you're
look
not,
at this and not worry about that.
Fine.
and you're not acting on that, you're acting
We're not
on the
voting on
consent
these
agenda.
nominations.
Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of the consent agenda? Okay. Against?
Again, I'll abstain.
Okay, abstain.
As will I.
All abstain? Okay. 2 abstentions. Okay, next item are policies. We have 2 policies. Would you like to handle these, Leon?
Well, no, you can just.
Okay. Policy 5002, prevention of harassment of students. We need a motion to adopt
So
that.
moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion on that one? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Okay, unanimous, and we...
I'm voting no.
Oh, you're voting no, okay, I'm sorry. Jim votes no. And policy 5003, prevention of bullying of students by other students. Motion
moved.
to adopt. Motion?
Second.
Second, Leon. Questions on this one? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
No.
Okay,
I have a question.
Jim says no. Everybody else?
I have a question.
Yes.
I had spoke to Leon before. I think we should have a bullying policy for anybody that works in the school system. I think it should be the teachers, it should be the bus drivers, it should be board members, anybody that deals with children in the district. There should be a bullying policy for them.
As well as adult to adult, too.
Absolutely. And I think that should be brought forth sooner than later.
There has been lots of conversation concerning those particular items, and it sounds good at the board meetings, but we have to keep in mind certain teachers, and there's a professional ethics and a code for them to be hired, and the conduct that they have to do, and the area that you're trying to go into may not be one that you really want to endorse. But I mean, we're discussing it at that level, but you have to think about what you're saying in terms of their obligation as a professional, as an instructor, or such and such a thing. But I'm just wanting to say it's being discussed, and we're hearing it, but I want you to make sure you realize that it may or may not.
Maybe you're missing the point. I'm hearing children, students bullying teachers. And I'm hearing adults bullying adults. And I think that should be, if you work in the system, why should you be excluded in this in a policy? The adults are, they're the ones that the children look up to. And they have to start somewhere.
Okay, April 7th is the policy meeting, and we'll be glad to have somebody take that on April 7th as a policy to make an adoption and go out and do a draft for that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say one other thing. At the last meeting, we asked that we take a look at the superintendent's policy, and we had a discussion and talked about that, and likewise as to what was in that in terms of bringing forth the nominees for this board to consider after being reviewed by a committee. And it seems to be a lot of confusion, but in terms of what the obligations were. The policy says bring 3 of the best candidates for the board. It didn't say that you have to have the one that you want to make sure you be the superintendent come before the board. And so that's what's being looked at now, and saying, what are the committee's responsibilities in terms of making sure the marching orders or the guidelines that they use in sort of screening people before they come to the board, and the policy is looking for 3 of the best, not that if you don't like them, don't bring them. So it's that kind of a conversation that we're having to go with that and having to look at on that. I just wanted to make sure we were discussing that.
Ken?
Yep.
May I clarify too? Thank you, Leon, for both of those comments. To come back to the bullying, Cindy, thank you very much for bringing that topic forward. Leon is correct. It has been and continues to be discussed at the policy meeting. We have had council advisement not to merge the adult into the children's. So to keep the policies separate, and what Leon was speaking to were 2 factors. One is that the professional ethics, which are part of the administrative rules of the state of Vermont, require respectful behavior of our professional employees, so that's covered there. So the discussion at the policy meeting is how to incorporate that within a policy of adult to adult. As far as the students bullying adults, we can go in and, as Leon said, take that up. To go to the third policy that he mentioned, which is the administrative policy for hire, you can look at it on the website. It is a combined policy right now, including superintendent and principal. as well, the principals. And so what happened is, if you read the policy, the lines are blurred about superintendent hires and principal hires. So the committee is now talking about separating those two. And as Leon mentioned, the policy in this combined policy requires 3 candidates to be brought forward for consideration. The law has actually, in professional appointments for principals, has changed in that the superintendent brings 1, and if the board is not in agreement, they do not approve that, and another process and another candidate comes forward. That's for principals. And then for the superintendent, there's discussion about what should that look like, and what is the difference between a screening committee and a search committee. And I think we'll get some information from the presentation later this afternoon.
And is there any,
Thank you, Leon.
any qualification there for an interim superintendent, or is that, you use the same word?
It doesn't address it.
Ken, I wanted to ask Jim. Jim, is there something you could share with us? I noticed that you voted against both policies, but if I'm putting you on the spot, just say forget it.
Actually, in Pownell, I either abstained or voted against these policies every time they were brought up, so I'm being consistent. And what I've had various reasons, but my favorite word is, not my favorite word, I've settled on it's overreach. We have enough laws and regulations to cover most of this. And it's just, it's too much. We got to stop somewhere. Okay, we have too many rules. This has been around for a long time, and I think good principals and good teachers. In Pownell, we have our principal is, in cooperation with the other departments, we have this procedure in place where these things are handled. They're handled quickly and nicely and efficaciously. Okay, and I don't think in Pownell we needed a bullying policy, because we have good people in place. Okay, I call them the sergeant at arms, but we have 2 people that get to the quick of every. My granddaughter was involved. I hope she's not watching. My granddaughter was involved in one this week, or one girl wrote something and blamed it on my granddaughter, and it was resolved. It was resolved quickly, fairly, equitably, to everybody's satisfaction. So, that's it. It's just overreach.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jim.
A question for Catherine. My understanding was that a lot of these policies, like it or not, we think they're necessary or not, are actually dictated by the state, that certain policies such as bullying and harassment need to be in place in the district. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's state and federal regulation.
I just want to say, in addition to that, Dick France and myself were one of the original people back 20-some years ago that consolidated, that consolidated the policies. Before we did that, there were lawsuits, and there were multiple challenges in each one of the districts because procedures were not being followed consistently from one district to the next. These policies protect the boards, and it protects the individual citizens, whether they realize it or not, by having consistent policies throughout the SVSU. It gives specific guidelines in terms of what the laws are to help the administrators correctly administer these particular policies. So a unified policy throughout the whole district is what we're trying to strive for. And there are some policies that have taken as many as 7 years to get through the system because somebody says, I don't like it, and they may hold it up at their different board levels. So we're trying to work all of those things out, but we need policies in place that cover all of the districts. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, superintendent's report.
I think we need to vote on the consent. Did you vote on the consent agenda?
We did.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, the policies. You've got them all done.
Superintendent's report.
Okay. Superintendent's report, we have Bob Marine here to discuss the 21st Century Learning Grant the grant that finishes this June. It's our second 5-year grant in the supervisory union history, and he's applied on our behalf for a third. Bob, would you like to just give us a quick overview of your summary? A summary of the summary, if you will.
Yeah, nice to see you all. Did we pass this out at the last meeting, Catherine? Catherine, do you remember?
I'm sorry, I
Did they
couldn't.
pass this out the
Yes,
last?
it's linked on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
All right,
They
so
both
any
have it.
questions about it? I'm sure you read it or didn't, but basically, we'll find out on the new 5-year grant April 30th, whether we've been renewed or not. I feel very confident that we will be renewed. The Mosaic program was just evaluated by people from the state on March 6th. They came down with a team of 4, went to all the schools, had a lengthy talk with myself, Tim Payne, Catherine, Donna, Rick popped in. So I feel very confident they think that this area is in need of a program like Mosaic. I think they believe that Mosaic is working nicely. I know that Emmanuel Betts, the leader of the 21st Century in Vermont, is very pleased with the community outreach that Mosaic has made and the tie-in that we have with the public schools. So I feel confident that we're going to get renewed for 5 years, which is good because I was kind of excited about renewing because I didn't have to keep the grant the way it was. Over 5 years, we discovered things that might make it even better. And I think we still have a long way to go to make it even better. So we're going to increase the program from 120 days to 128 days, 2 extra weeks, 8 more days. We're going to increase the amount of time that we spend. Right now, the middle school goes 2 hours, Ben L goes an hour and a half, and Molly and Pownell each go 1 hour. We're going to increase it across the board to have every school go 2 hours. It's what's recommended from the state. And in the grant rewrite, the application, it was highly recommended that you increase your hours to at least 2 hours a day. So I thought that was our best chance to get renewed also. We're also going to increase summer. Summer right now we do 4 weeks, 20 days, about 3-4 hours a day. We're going to increase that another 2 weeks and go 32 or 5 weeks in the summer for 3 or 4 hours a day. And I'm going to try to position that so it's closer to the beginning of school. Still give them a week or 2 off, but closer instead of July. Because I think we lose a lot of the learning that we get in the summer. It's such a pivotal time, the summer loss. If we can get that closer and do more tutoring and more educational things, we can jumpstart those kids, I think, into the new year in September with a much better rate of success. So we're excited about it. We're actually asking for a little bit more money, about $40,000 a year more from the feds, but I think they've got it. As a matter of fact, we got an email not too long ago that said they actually, the federal government had given more money to the 21st Century program than they thought. So that increases our possibilities of getting what we want. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to go. I think it's going to go well. We have good site coordinators in every school. They know how to run it. They know your kids. They've got teachers involved, the supportive principals, and I'm probably talking too much and you can't ask me any questions at all, but that might be a good policy. I don't know. Yes, sir.
I have one. This is okay, Ken. I think it's important in this, in the Bennington district, your second paragraph to really let the public know about that and why it's so important by the numbers that you put in there. I like charts and graphs and showing the increases in terms of free and reduced lunches and so forth in terms of participation. We need to have that get out there, and it needs to be spoken to, I think, in terms of a highlight in terms of Bennington.
It is incredible. I think I checked that number 2 to 3 times. I think Marcia got it for me. It's incredible, the percentage that's free and reduced now. It's unbelievable. Ben L was 80%, Molly 71, Pownell 60, and the middle school was at 56, and that's over a 5-year period. It used to be 61, 58, 48, and 41. They have all increased dramatically, I think. It shows that we have our work cut out for us.
We have Bennington schools in Pownell that are at 68 or above for poverty levels, 68% or above. So they have, in the last 5 years, increased dramatically, as you say.
And I've had a couple principals from other schools in the SVSU call me up and say, listen, our free and reduced number's high now, can we get into Mosaic? And of course, Mosaic was only written for 4 schools. They can write their own grants. They don't have to be part of this. They can have another grant with the 21st Century and apply themselves as a team or themselves. So it's not like it's SVSU and we only have 4 schools in it. They could apply themselves next year, and I would be certainly happy to show them how to do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
I would just like to take the opportunity on behalf of the, yes,
Oh,
Bob,
do
I
it.
will. On behalf of the entire supervisory union and board members, employees, students, parents, you have done a terrific job in the 5 years. And as this board knows, because they've seen your retirement letter, that you will be retiring at the end of June. And so I can't let you leave tonight without saying thank you. It has been a
Put the camera on me,
terrific,
Dan. Don't do it.
terrific program.
Don't do it, Dan.
You've done
Well,
well.
thank you very much,
Provided good
Pat.
leadership, and I appreciate that you've given much credit to the site managers, because they also
Oh,
have done
they're
a
very good.
terrific,
They work,
terrific
as you know,
job.
so hard. They really do.
A
Excellent
hand
job.
for Bob?
No, please. Very sweet, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, for a legislative update, the first thing I would like to say is that we had to cancel our legislative breakfast on March 24th because 4 of our legislators could not make that. And what's happened is that because of the great activity this session in the legislature, the committee meetings have gone into Mondays, whereas formerly they had not. So our next legislative breakfast is April 7th. There are many bills that are being followed by board members and administrators. Some relate to income with the property tax, income sensitivity. We're waiting to see, especially with VSD, where the homestead-based tax rate is set. We're watching small schools grants and the penalty threshold. Also, as you know, the House Education Committee did pass a bill to come out of the House with a bill number that would look at single districts from pre-K to 12, consolidated districts or centralized districts that would be supervisory union districts with one board. And there are a number of facets of that bill, but I'm told that it's already been modified today. So we have to keep up daily, sometimes hourly, with what's going on in the legislature. But I would like to say again that our legislators here in the Bennington area are extremely responsive to their constituents and make themselves available every chance they have, and they're very visible in the area. So our next legislative breakfast is April 7th at 7:45 a.m. We also have set the retirement dinner date, which is going to be held at the middle school on May 15th, if you want to mark that in your calendars. And then I thought I would just give you a quick update on SVSU meetings for the remainder of this fiscal year. Your April meeting is April 30th. It's the 5th Wednesday of the month, and that is because board meetings are being shifted because of the school vacation the week of the 14th. So your next meeting in April is April 30th. The presentation that night will be a report from those members of the Special Education SVSU Focus Monitoring Team. You'll remember we had an Agency of Education on-site visit with a number of commendations, but many areas for improvement, and this report and the work of the committee members points us into an action plan to make those improvements, as well as to note the commendations. The May 28th meeting, we expect to have the revised teacher evaluation system ready for your approval, and we'll make sure you get that ahead of time, as we will the focus monitoring report. Then your last meeting in June is June 25th. But please note that graduation is June 13th, and as always, you'll have an invitation from the high school faculty to participate in graduation. And then this month has just held such a notable works within the supervisory union and the independent schools districts that I wanted to make note of them. One has already been mentioned. Congratulations to Karen Burnell for being selected as a champion of early childhood at the state level. Thank you, Karen. Certainly well-deserved, and I did send out to board members my remarks at the time. You've done colossal work in a very timely way, expanded Act 62 so that all 4-year-olds have access within the supervisory union to quality preschool programs and support for private providers, a lot of good community connections. We also had Michelle Obama visiting China, as you all know, and interviewing Chinese students. We were very pleased that Molly Stark students in Donna Stone's class had a question that was selected by Michelle Obama to be asked of the Chinese students. And the question was related to what they do outside of school, what fun do they have and what activities do they participate in. So that was very exciting. And I can't go on without mentioning the fact that we just finished hosting the New England Music Festival. We had over 400 students here for orchestra, band, and chorus. It was phenomenal. If you have had a chance to look at it, to attend it, and the reason I started to slip in to look at it, we are going to post on the website. I've purchased a DVD of the concerts, so we'll make sure they're linked. We also have our, I always say, our legacy of the MAU wrestling team going on to nationals. We have 24 athletes going on to nationals, and there's a multitude of athletic successes this month. And as well, I got word from the middle school last week that there are enough sixth graders from Bennington, fifth graders coming out of the Bennington School District to create an accelerated math class at the middle school for grade 6, and I'm sure the other districts will also be contributing students to that. So I'm very pleased about all of those items and wanted to share them with you. Thank you, Ken.
Under Chair's report, this coming Monday, the 31st, at 5 o'clock at the CDC, the Vermont School Board Association is coming down for a workshop training for new and old school board members. All you have to do is go online at vtvsba.org and sign up, and there'll be a meal to start off at 5 o'clock. Steve Dale, Harry Frank, a couple of people will be coming down, and we'll get the latest update to the new education bill, or H883 status. I noticed the Ed Committee moved it out. I don't know if it was unanimous or not, but they moved it out. The State Board of Education voted, 6-1 today to move it out. So it's on a track of moving forward. But again, the whole legislature has to sit down and they have to vote on this, realizing their seats are up for election in November, and they may think twice before they vote positive on this.
I think too, Ken, it came out of committee very late in the session, but there is momentum behind it, but it is late in the session.
Well, I'm very concerned about 883. The governor has come out in favor of it. The Speaker of the House is in favor of it. It came out of committee 10-0, and the State Board of Education a couple of days ago voted all to one in favor of it. Okay, so it was only one. The person from Rutland voted against it, but so far it's 100-0. Thank you. And what it does, it reduces 300 districts to 30.
Thank you.
Okay, and Pownell will lose its autonomy.
There is a voluntary aspect to that legislation, as well as an innovative section in the proposed in the language for innovation for greater opportunities for students through waivers. So that's a part of it that's attractive, would be attractive for districts that would want to look at it voluntarily. We should go back to the presentation.
Okay, again, Catherine mentioned the next meeting is April 30th, and we will have executive session for personnel, as George had mentioned. I think you had something as well.
Yes, there will be. personnel items.
Now
We're ready
we'll
for-
watch the, I think they last about 40 minutes.
Frank?
40.
There's a lot of questions. Tim had a lot of questions.
Thank you. The disc is on too. Believe it or not, the disc cover is on, the cover is on.
That's it, just a presentation, that's it.
Take it off.
No big phases.
Good.
I was sitting over there, so images closer to that side are larger than the people sitting on that. You'll see, still, it's beautiful.
And then Woodford, get half of this chair. Bennington would rule. The way it's set, the way it's described, Bennington would rule the whole thing. Woodford separate.
Thursday evening on the 27th of March. And we're here with Art Betancourt, who is Executive Director of NASDAQ in Marlborough, Massachusetts. And with me are some of our board chairs of the member districts of the supervisory union. So to my right is Ken Swearad, who is chair of the SVSU Board. And actually, I can let each of you introduce yourselves. So Ken is right next to me.
Ken Swearad, Executive School Board. Ray Mullen, North Bennington School Board. Francis Kinney, Shasberry. Jim Wilbur, MAU.
Thank you, and thank you to Frank Barnes, who's taping us, and also to Elaine Goulet, who set us up. Art, would you tell us a little bit about NASDAQ and your involvement of the Professional Association in the superintendent search here in the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's good to see you all. And I want to apologize, actually, because we were planning on a meeting on Thursday of this week in the evening, and my schedule has changed in such a way that I couldn't make that meeting, so I apologize for any inconvenience this may be causing you. But I hope that it suffices to begin a discussion, if you will, of how we might proceed in finding a new superintendent. As Catherine mentioned, my name is Art Betancourt. I'm the director of NASDAQ. NASDAQ is a not-for-profit organization. We're actually supported by about 300 affiliated districts, all of whom are members of NASDAQ. We serve school districts, public school districts in all of the 6 New England states. And in fact, in this past year, we've done at least one superintendent search or executive search in each of the New England states. We do more than just searches. We also do a lot of planning projects for districts, strategic planning, facilities planning. We do enrollment projections, probably about 270, 280 enrollment projections per year. And we also do demographic work. In addition to that, we're involved in professional development. And we offer professional development at various levels for boards like yourselves and superintendents. We also do it for principals and leadership teams, building leadership teams, as well as teachers and support staff. And lastly, we are also involved in research and development. We've done a lot of work with what we call team governance, helping boards and superintendents work together to develop goals and planning, and then working to achieve those goals, and then obviously assessing the progress toward those goals. And I think I'll stop it there and perhaps answer any questions you may have.
Well, Art, you've come out of this first assisting us with the initial publication of the opening of superintendent here in the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union. I think that your recommendations, comments that you have about that search will open up the discussion with the board chairs.
Okay.
Do you think that we went out at the wrong time, looking for a superintendent? That was part of our problem, not getting enough qualified candidates?
Well, it might have been. There are some times that are better than others, although you can have a successful superintendent search virtually any time of the year. And the secret to success is really not necessarily attracting a large number of candidates, but really attracting the candidates that are a good fit for your district. So perhaps with different timing, your search might lead you to successful, or to an applicant that you feel could be successful as your superintendent. And that's something, clearly when you do your planning, you can look at your calendar and determine, when you think the most opportune time for you folks will be.
What do you believe are some of the concerns that potential applicants have about the position that is available here, or will become available here?
Yeah. Well, I can't get in the heads of applicants, so I guess what I would do is respond to you based upon some of the conversations that I had as we were recruiting the last time around. But I think one of the issues is the complexity, the governance complexity that your district represents. I know you've been working on that, and that you've made some progress. Clearly, a superintendent looking at what would be required in terms of time and presence in order to meet the needs of multiple boards, multiple communities, is certainly a consideration, I think. In addition to that, you have a geographical issue, which you share with some of the other New England states. So clearly, geographically, to attract people to the region means a real commitment in terms of living in the region, bringing your family to the region. And so those things, I think, are taken into consideration as you try to, for example, recruit nationally. If someone is going to move to the area, that obviously is a major consideration for not only the superintendent, but his or her family. So there are a number of things like that I think can make it challenging to find the leader that you're looking for. So certainly not impossible, but challenging, and a situation where you really probably want to spend some time understanding the kind of person you're looking for, the kinds of attributes you're looking for, the kinds of experiences, and also making the position attractive in ways that you can bring the person to you that you feel will ultimately be successful in the position.
Can you elaborate on that last statement, the idea of bringing to the candidate's attention attractive aspects of the position, something that would act as an incentive to further consider the position? Yeah, actually, when we recruit and when we help districts, we ask candidates what are the important considerations when they're looking at a position. And there are three that come to the top. The first consideration of most importance as we get this data given to us is the answer to the question, can I work with these people? Are these people who are well organized? Are these folks, and I'm talking about board members, are these folks that know how to plan? Do they understand their role as board members? Do they understand my role as a CEO to the district? Are they respectful of my time? And do they give me the time and the resources I need to do the kind of job that they want me to do? That's top priority. The second priority is the quality of life issue. What's the quality of life for me in terms of being associated with this district and potentially moving into the area? Not only that, what's the quality of life in terms of my family? What can I offer my family if in fact I have to relocate my family to the area? The third thing, which some people might think would be the first thing, but the third thing is actually money. Is the salary attractive enough to meet my needs in terms of what my expectations are and what the expectations of my family are? So those three things in that order
tend to be the things that are on candidates' minds as they look at a district. But clearly, number one is, can I succeed? I mean, is this a place where I can relate to people and people can relate to me and get work done in a way that allows me, given their expectations, to meet their expectations?
Did you find that interviewing candidates after they'd been here, that was a primary reason for possibly not considering the position? In other words, did a number of candidates express to you their concern about the working environment within the district, in particular the governing board, the SVSU board?
Well, the conversations, as I recall them, and this is anecdotal from memory, I don't recall anyone saying that you were difficult folks or anything like that. I don't think there was anything like that was conveyed to me. I think what came back to me and what I gleaned from my conversations was really the governmental complexity that you represent in terms of how a superintendent relates to the governing board, as well as how the superintendent would be expected to relate to the individual communities and their governance structures. I think that represents, and this is not, incidentally, at least in my experience, this is not unique to your district. There are a lot of districts, particularly in New Hampshire and Vermont, some of them in Maine, that have similar characteristics, multiple boards, which can, at least in some people's eyes, be perceived as a challenge to getting work done.
What advice do you have at this point for the SVSU board as they determine their next steps?
Well, I don't want to, I think it's important, first of all, for people to understand that we're not engaged in a contract with you folks. So, I mean, I really don't feel like I'm in a position to be giving you guidance and advice. What I can give you is my point of view, with the understanding that, I'm just another set of eyes sort of looking at the situation at this point.
Thank you.
But I do think, getting back to one of the first questions that was offered to me, looking at this search from the point of view of your timeline and how it plays out, I think can be important. I think the design of your search, and by that I mean the design of your search and how the various elements of your search are put together to bring you to a successful conclusion. For example, this last time around, we were engaged only really for outreach, which meant that we would put the word out through our network, which we did, and then we would do recruiting, which we also did, to develop an applicant pool. That's what we were hired to do. And in some cases, that's enough to get you the applicant pool that you're looking for. However, there are other elements of the search that you might want to consider as you go forward. One of the things, and I don't know this because we weren't engaged really to be a part of what your outreach was to your communities in terms of the community involvement to the search. But a lot of communities, a lot of superintendent searches include an element where you actually develop a candidate profile based upon the input from your community. And that's done through focus groups or through surveys. It can be done through interviews. It can be done in a number of ways. The idea being that at the end of that process, you have a fairly clear indication or a fairly clear view of what the attributes and the characteristics and the experiences and the knowledge base, those things that you need in your new leader to be successful. The other thing that a lot of districts, not a lot of districts, but many districts will do is to enlist the business community in that process as well. Because the business community has a stake in the school system. And so business leaders brought into the process in various ways, I think, can be effective as well. The other thing that districts will often do is rather than have
the board, the governing board, involved in all aspects of the search from, say, beginning to end. Part of the screening process is actually delegated to a screening committee, which is made up of community members, people from faculty and staff, who actually do the preliminary screening of candidates. And based upon that screening, then recommend a number of candidates for final board review. Not only does this take some of the burden off the board in terms of looking at candidates, but it also provides another mechanism for community and faculty and staff input into the process. The idea being that at the end of this process, when you find your candidate, you want that candidate to really come into the district on a wave of support that's really been built from the very beginning of the search and as the search has progressed, so that people feel engaged, people feel that they have a stake in it, and people understand that in the end the decision was made based upon input of not just the board, but of a wide variety of people within the communities.
If we were to expand the role that you played in the last search, how would that expansion take place? What would you recommend that we do this time that we didn't do last time?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not sure, this may sound strange coming from me, but I'm not sure that we would necessarily be the firm to work with you, because I think that's something you need to think about. Our strength lies in our ability to recruit nationally, because we have a national network, as well as all of the other elements. But I think you want to consider, in fact, which firm or which organization can really suit your needs. Just to expand that a little bit, I think the culture of Vermont and the culture of your district is a little different, perhaps, than might be expected in other New England states. And you want to be sure that whomever does your search understands your culture, so that in fact they can describe that culture and explain that culture to candidates in terms of what the cultural expectations are for a superintendent of schools. Now, following up on that, if we were to do this search, I can tell you that I, in my view, I would not be the right consultant to be doing your search. What I would do is I would try to use a consultant, and there are people in Vermont that we do use. And depending upon availability, I would try to use someone with that direct knowledge of Vermont and an understanding of how the process should work within the culture of Vermont. But now beyond that, to answer your question, the very first thing I would do, regardless of who does your search, is I would spend some time sitting down with whomever is going to sort of be the board that oversees this, actually designing the search, looking at a timeline that makes sense to you folks, putting the milestones in that timeline that you need. In other words, if you're going to do focus groups, they're going to occur here and here. Your advertising is going to occur between here and here. Your filing deadline is here. You're going to put a screening committee together here. They're going to be interviewing candidates this period of time and so on. So that timeline is well established and understood. And in fact, a lot of districts, perhaps even most districts, put that timeline right up on their website so that the communities can understand where you are in your search efforts. So that to me would be, if I were making recommendations, that would be the very first thing I would suggest you would want to do.
But I don't mean to dominate the questions.
I thought that we already voted at the last SVSU meeting to hire this firm. No, I'm correct.
No. Anyway, if we did follow your suggestion and try to form some consensus of opinion as to where we want to go and what we want and all that kind of business, would the use or the assistance of the person that would head the search be a valuable member of that team to help us pull together the information and the direction that we feel we want to go. I'm not expressing that very well, but I'm sure you understand the general gist.
I think I do. And that's why I go back to what I said just a minute ago. I don't feel that I would be the right consultant to do this search. I think what we would need, and what I would suggest is you have someone who is immersed in the Vermont culture, who could, in fact, yes, be with you every step of the way, be available to you in terms of giving you guidance as you hit various activities or circumstances that occur in the search. That's very important. And that's what we would do. I'm sure other organizations would do that too. But I think the link between the consultant, him or herself, and whomever the contact group is, the board is, that is in charge of guiding this thing, would be critical to that process.
Have you had direct connections with somebody that would meet those qualifications that you say, someone that was familiar with Vermont and would be willing and has experience in the background to be able to assist us in this project?
We do, but again, I can't speak until I actually know that person's availability and their willingness to get involved in the search. So I can't. We do have contacts in Vermont. In fact, we have board members. Some of my board members are Vermont. In fact, one of them right now is a Vermont superintendent. So we have connections in Vermont. But I would not want to commit to actually having the person until I had a discussion and with that person and could ensure that that person would be available.
I don't want to push this too much, but just in terms of the sequence of steps that we would follow, would Catherine be in touch with you to ask you to proceed with that, or how would we get that going if the board decided that was the direction they wanted to go?
Well, I'm not familiar with the bid laws in Vermont and how those work. This may be a project that requires you to go out to bid. I'll defer to the experts in-house for that. But I mean, you're talking, the other thing that I think is important to understand here is that there is a sum of money that would be required to do the kind of search that I described. And it would be substantially more than, for example, the amount that we were engaged for before. So I think there are things to take into consideration in terms of how you structure this and how you, if you choose to, how you bid it out, those sorts of things.
So Art, yes, that would be great to keep the conversation going, and certainly once the board chair is chosen for the elected for the SVSU board, and some direction is given by that board, hopefully on this Thursday, we can get started in formulating a search. But given the timeline, my contract ends June 30 of this year, so we're looking at a 3-month span here. What are your thoughts about the kind of thorough and extensive search that you've described and the timeline that we're facing?
Yeah, I can tell you that I wouldn't agree to be engaged for a search that with the expectation of the superintendent in place by July 1. So I just, it may be doable. From my standpoint, I don't think that we could design a search that I would feel comfortable would produce a successful, or would be successfully completed by July 1, if that's what you're inferring. Again, I can't give you advice. I don't think that's right, but I do think you might want to consider, for a couple of reasons actually, you might want to consider an interim superintendent in place. And it could be, and this is actually fairly common, it could be for the better part of a year as you get this search underway and you involve those elements of your community that you would want to include in the search, and having ample time for recruitment and getting the word out. I would feel very uncomfortable having NESDEC engaged for anything less than what we would consider almost a full year.
Mr. Bencourt, what would be the size of the search committee?
And about the screening committee?
Well, screening, search committee, whatever, the ones that are gonna pick the candidates, talk about them, interview them. My point is the last time I think we had 13 or 14 people. What's a good number? Is that too many, or should we have less?
That's about right.
Okay.
I'd say about a dozen.
Okay.
Every once in a while, because you want to include people, you can go to 15 or 16 if you need to. But somewhere between 10 and 12 on the screening committee works well.
Okay.
And usually between 10 and 12 people gives you an opportunity to include representatives from constituency groups that you feel should be involved in the process.
To be competitive, what kind of salary range should we be considering? You know, I realize that it was a third of your three things, but still, just to put us in the ballpark of where we would be so that we would be competitive.
Yeah, I really couldn't respond to that. I think what you'd want to do is to do a survey of districts around you. But again, it's not just what other districts are paying. I think it's looking at other districts that present similar kinds of opportunities and similar kinds of challenges that your district might. And I do think that the multiple board governance piece is a piece that people are going to look at. And I think perhaps as candidates look at that, there's a premium. It's worth a premium in terms of what it really takes to get the work done in a district that's structured like this. But I would suggest to you that your state board association would probably give you information that would be useful. I mean, we can do it. That would be part of what we would do if we would do a search. But I wouldn't give you a number at this point.
Any further questions for Art? Right? No?
Well, his first he had 3 points. The last one was salary. The second one was quality of life. The first one was the character of the districts. But he never actually, other than the governance issue, he never actually said much about that first one. Is that the only thing that you think was
So I can elaborate further if you wish. What I'm going to describe is work that we actually do for districts. But in terms of looking at the way you're structured, some of the things that can be important to prospective candidates is how much time am I going to have to spend working with boards in evening meetings, when in fact what is really expected of me is to drive as many resources as I possibly can to the kids in the classroom. And so the balance, I think, in terms of your expectations for a CEO taking care of governance matters and administrative matters at your level, does that leave enough time for your leader to work with faculty and staff to make sure that what's going on in the classroom is the best that it can possibly be? And that balance is very important. I mean, I was a superintendent of schools for over 20 years. But the fact of the matter is I never wanted to lose touch with what was going on in the classroom. The boards that I worked with were always very sensitive to that and understood that they had their business to do. But at the board level, they wanted to do the business efficiently and effectively. They wanted me to communicate with them and to keep them informed. But they also knew that the important work, some of the important work, perhaps the most important work that I was involved in, was ensuring that the classrooms were getting the resources, were getting the high quality of instruction, the teachers were getting the professional development, and that I was helping them plan for the future in terms of not just what the district is today, but what's it going to be tomorrow. So I think, one of the difficult things I detect perhaps
particular circumstances is ensuring that your leader, not just your superintendent, but your other administrative leaders, are not in a situation where they have to pay so much attention to administrative and governance issues that they can't do the other things that in fact are going to bring your district forward and on a path of improvement, continuous improvement, that really ultimately benefits the kids. I think that's what it's all about. So it's the balance between how much attention this person has to spend with boards and governance, and can we find a way to free the person up from those kinds of responsibilities, still getting the work done, and give this person the opportunity to really concentrate on the teaching and learning that goes on in the classrooms. I think that's perhaps an area that you might want to look at and see if there are some ways that you can build in systems and build in expectations that make the job doable at both levels. Because I think a superintendent will be looking at that.
I think
or a prospective superintendent will be looking at that.
I think one of our advantages recently has been the hire of a full-time human resources director, because already she's only been here a month or two, and much of the work that has occupied my time is being moved off into the appropriate department. So I think
how many evenings do you spend out on average?
Well, we've done some restructuring here in that our board meetings are all on Wednesdays, and the assistant superintendent and I split them. During the years that I didn't have an assistant superintendent, I had far more. And we also have had boards in recent years reduce their meetings from twice a month to once a month in my tenure, and so that's been very helpful. We still have many committee meetings that occur. But I think that, there are many challenges within the governance system, but we're also in a momentum of change here. We've done more focused instruction. Sounds like I'm doing the advertisement right now for the position, but we have a momentum building in our schools to give more focused intervention for remediation as well as acceleration. I had some really good news from the middle school in terms of the skill levels of students coming out of the Bennington district. So it's those kinds of things, but certainly chasing agenda is very time consuming, and it's difficult to get a uniform agenda format that would help. So there are things that can be done to streamline that while we wait for other developments that the board may take.
Well, it sounds to me like you're moving along the right path, and I think those are the kinds of things that prospective candidates would want to know. That number one, you're moving along the path, but also that you're open to future decisions that might bring you even farther along that path to really efficient governance. And as I said, ensuring that the priority is within teaching and learning within the classroom.
Yes. Right?
Well, I'll follow up on my first question. As part of this, you estimated a year search if NASDAQ is involved, or up to a year. Right? And you also spoke of the possibility of an interim superintendent.
Right.
As part of that process, would this be an analysis of some things that we could do that you could pinpoint that we could do to improve our prospects? Be part of that search, that process?
Yeah, to be honest, that's probably another scope of work. I think what we would concentrate on is developing a candidate profile that really describe what your needs are. In terms of looking at your governance structure or looking at the way work gets done within your district, I mean, that really does, we do that kind of work, but it really does represent a different scope of work than would probably be included in a typical search. I mean, we could include it, obviously, in the search. Again, it would require additional funding, I would think, and I'm not sure that actually a year would be enough time to really examine it in a way that would result in meaningful, a meaningful strategy moving forward. It might actually take longer than that.
Well, could you describe, if we engage you for a process taking up to a year, would you, maybe I'm a little unclear, maybe no one else is, but what that would entail, what steps, what processes would you engage?
Yeah, they vary. What we usually do is we develop a scope based upon some preliminary conversations with board members and people in the district. But essentially what it would be doing is examining workloads, expectations, job descriptions, workflow, and analyzing those in a way that would tell you whether or not these people are, first of all, that the jobs that are assigned to them are the right jobs and are doable, what those tasks end up doing for the district, and if you could change some things administratively, does that mean you could drive resources to the classroom? The focus of the study is typically, okay, here's what we are. We understand resources are limited. How then can we drive more resources to the classroom while still getting the administrative tasks done? That's typically what the study is about.
And then the search itself, Art basically is moving into a process that would begin with working with the employing board of the superintendent to create.
I didn't hear the last part of your statement, Captain.
It's your first step is really working with that employing board to, in the search process, to come up with a beginning profile that you would then also follow up with community forums and stakeholder forums, conversations with others that might be represented on a search committee, and then carrying through recruitment, screening, and ultimately a candidate or candidates to the board. You mentioned the interim superintendent. In your experience, is that person usually also a candidate in the formal search or not?
Well, I mean, it can happen that way. I would say it's more typical to employ an interim who is not going to be a candidate for the position. I mean, what you're really looking for the interim to do, I think, is not only to sort of steer the ship and keep it going its proper course, but also to continue the initiatives in the district that have been started that people agree need to be continued. And also to set the table for the new superintendent. In other words, getting things set up in such a way that the new person coming in can quickly grasp the systems in place, the tasks that need to be paid attention to right away, so that that person actually can hit the ground running. So it's an important role, but typically not one, although it's not exclusively this way, but typically that interim turns out not to be a candidate for the position.
Go ahead. Maybe one last word about 6 minutes over.
Okay, well, I just wanted to be sure that I understood what you had said earlier, and that it was your advice, or at least your initial advice, that it would be more beneficial to have somebody else be the one who would be representing us than your firm. In other words, that you would look into somebody possibly from Vermont that would take the role as our consultant in this issue.
Well, I think that's part of your consideration. I think the question is, and I can't answer this for you. I think it's worth discussing, however, in terms of how broad a reach do you want in terms of your recruiting. As I said, our strength is recruiting throughout New England, which we do, but we can also recruit nationally. And clearly we have I don't think there's any doubt that any New England firm, we probably have the best recruiting network there is. But I think what you folks need to decide is whether you're really looking outside, very much outside Vermont or not. I don't know that.
And the other thing I think is worth restating is that if we were to do the search for you, I would want a Vermont person representing NASDAQ for your search consultant. I mean, I really don't think that I would be the right search consultant, and others that I have that work in other states, I think would not be. We do have such people, but I can't commit to whether or not they would be available at this point. I also want to go back to another thing, because I think it may be something that was overstated. When I say that your search is going to take a year, the entire search process takes about 4 months. But the fact of the matter is, you want to make your choice, you want to try to make your choice, I think, so that you can have your chosen new superintendent chosen sometime in the March, April timeframe, for example, maybe even February, so that you give that person enough time to transition out of their present position and also time to transition into the new position so that they can be ready to go on July 1. So the entire search process is not a year, but in fact, I think it works to your advantage to give yourselves a year to do the search and then to also have the transition period.
Any further comments? I'm sure we're going to be talking with you again, Art, at some point. The board is scheduled to take up this discussion this Thursday evening, and I'll give you a call afterwards, let you know what direction that the board decided to pursue.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you all, and I do wish you well. And if there are ways that we can help you as you think this thing through, you should feel free to be in touch with us. We'd be happy to speak with you. And I wish you well in terms of finding a new leader. It's an important thing to do. Probably the most important thing that a board can do is to find the right leader for a school system. So I wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Art.
Take care now.
Yes, you as well. Thank you.
Proud just after that twice. Right around here. You don't want no part of it.
That's right. Yeah. Put the thing over the top there. Thank you.
I don't think everybody else.
So you go ahead and do the discussion, and then when we go into the proposal, tracks as well as personnel.
Does anybody have any comments after watching that short tape?
No more than, I think he is clearly saying that we need to do something else besides go in that direction with them, is what I got out of that, I think. We need to be looking in Vermont to do something.
Yeah, that's what you said, that even if you hired his firm.
Right.
You would get an individual from Vermont.
That's right.
I think we have to go with his idea of an intern first, at least, and then do the full search, because, like you said, the period's too short. It's not realistic. Expect someone on board by July 1.
Ken, can you just explain to me, maybe everyone else gets it, but what was their role, what has this organization's role been over the past 9 months or 12 months?
2 minutes. Yeah. NASDAQ was hired by this board to assist with the recruitment of the superintendent search. They did the advertisement, widely advertised through networking throughout Vermont and New England, the vacancy. They received the applications. They also did the reference checks, and then worked with the chair of the SVSU Board at that time and the search committee to just organize the procedure. They were not involved in the screening at all. So they basically only did the recruitment, the receipt of applications, transmittal of those applications to the search committee, and then the reference checks. So that was all. I've also spoken with, Ken, if I may, I've also spoken with Steve Dale of the Vermont School Boards Association, and he is going to see if they also might have a consultant that would be able to work with you if you were looking for an interim superintendent as well. I think as Ken said, obviously, the opinion of Art Betancourt, the executive director of NASDAQ, is an interim position so that a full search could happen, and then you would go out and NASDAQ or Vermont School Boards Association would put in a proposal for a search. They both could offer some assistance for the interim, but Steve Dale was going to get back to me. Again, the geographic region that we're in is a deterrent for several consultants to come down the travel time. But Steve Dale was going to look as well. So we have two firms, or an association and a firm looking for people that might be willing.
Jim?
I just want to reiterate something I said months ago. The Vermont Agency of Education advises that there's 230 people with active, valid superintendent licenses in the state of Vermont. Of course, 70 of them are employed as superintendents, which leaves us 160 available candidates. There's 11 people on the board. If we each call 20 of them, I mean, this is not, this guy here,
I thought they did.
they didn't. We asked them to, and they didn't. He didn't even go to the, we have a superintendent's convention in Lake Maury, and no one, from the search committee attended it. They're all there. But there's 230. We're stuck with the law. They have to be a qualified person. A qualified person is a licensed person. Okay, two or three of the 230 people are here tonight. Okay, with the license. It's not that hard. You just call them up and find out who's interested. To get 10 people interested would just take a little. We don't have to go through all these surveys and stuff. Thank you.
Paul and Cindy.
Just out of curiosity, because you evaded his question, which I think was on the piece of what I heard in there, is the structure, the governance structure that we have, and the amount of time that's consumed of the superintendent. So instead of saying how busy you are with school board, how much free time do you actually have? I mean,
free time? I don't have any.
Right. No, I mean, it's probably easier to think about that as to how many hours you have in a week available to yourself.
I can give you an example. When I was in New Hampshire with one board, I would typically spend, with one board, 2,000 students, typically 50 to 60 hours a week, and I now have 7. So, you're not putting in the time that you would with a single district with a single focus, because you've got to spread that over all of the boards, and I think that, and the districts, and I think that the staff we have at central office is phenomenal. They have been out, they're very supportive and do quality work with the principals, and that's important for someone to know coming in, that we're not restricted necessarily in that staffing. The largest staffing gap for me was the HR director, and we now have someone that's fully qualified to do that and is advising us on changing structures to be more efficient, actually, and already the work is shifting off my desk, as I said.
If you were 10 years younger, would you do it again?
Multiple boards? Not at all.
That's one of your 130 that are available.
And that's not being disrespectful in any way. All of the board, all of the board members are well-intended, and I think someone said earlier, our focus is students and opportunities for students, and that's where we need our focus to be.
I remember when we hired Catherine, we used School Spring, and I'm wondering why we didn't, or why we probably should keep that in mind.
Yeah, we can. We can do it tomorrow if you're looking for an interim.
But he did mention, we were talking with him there, that we're moving in the right direction. The BSD in Mount Anthony used to meet twice a month. Now they only meet once a month.
Now that has been a help.
Catherine used to go to every single meeting, and now she's got her assistant over there that goes to half the meeting. So, I mean, there's four Wednesdays basically a month that there's meetings, and they divide them up. So, most of the time there's 3 or 4 meetings. It's still a lot, grant you, but it's a lot less than it used to be. I think that's something we have to do when we get a new superintendent is to, why to make their work as easy as possible and still
And-
hopefully get the same results.
And I'll also say, because we have the opportunity that this is your reorganization meeting, you're a newly composed board, that you really need to come together in a coherent way and act in a united way on behalf of the students and really assist in building trust among the employees and among the community for the work you do, and really show them that you are focused, united in one direction. It's very important.
Under H883, keep in mind, if it does go through, and it looks like it will go through, there will only be 30 working superintendents in Vermont. So we can maybe cut the pay, because there'll be a lot of unemployed
Well, I
superintendents in
think-
2 years.
I think the thing to note about that bill is that it also, like the regional educational districts that were proposed under Act 153, you can voluntarily come together as 4 districts or greater number of districts. So when all is said and done, there's going to be, if it were to pass, there's a voluntary effort, and people have till July 1st of 2016, unless it's changed today. And then there's a design team that's going to work at the state level to look at all the remaining districts that haven't come together.
It's all going to change, there's going to be less superintendent positions available.
Yeah, there'll be fewer. That's
Which will help our search.
It would seem under an H883 that Southwest Vermont could be by itself, if it were towards one board, a supervisory union, because the limit was, or the cutoff was 1,200. What do we have, over 3,000 youngsters, right?
just about 3,000.
So, I mean, if we maybe talk with Arlington to maybe increase a little bit, Arlington would have to go north, and I think stuff like that, but we're pretty good size out here.
I think the hurdle is that you had Arlington, you had Battenkill Valley involved in the RED study in the regional educational group, and I think that it would be, I would recommend that you all discuss whether or not you want to come together to look at a pre-K through 12 single district, but we need to remember that group did not feel that they could come together, but I think that this new bill allows waivers, far greater number of waivers, that would answer some of the questions that the previous committee had. So, but we have to remember that the previous committee, whoever comes together should look at that last report as well and move from there. So Ken, I think maybe consensus of what the direction, because I would like to get an advertisement of something on School Spring tomorrow while we're waiting to see who might assist in the search, and the board chair would be appointing a committee.
Are we going to executive session for more discussion on this one?
Pardon?
I'm just asking, are we going into executive session? to
For
discuss
other
this?
matters,
For
yes.
other matters, personnel and contracts.
Contracts.
But they're not superintendent?
No,
No.
it's not super.
It's open and, I mean, there's nothing executive session about the superintendent. We can't be covered under that. I think what we have to do is, give Catherine the ability to start advertising for an interim. That's our first
If
step.
that's your recommendation.
Fine.
And that's the gentleman's in, it can be his company, it could be VSBA, it could be School Spring. But I mean, to get the ball rolling, we should be talking about that.
I make a motion that we allow the superintendent to go ahead and advertise for an interim.
Okay, we have a second? Okay, Dick? Grant? Any-
For a one-year period? Is that?
Yeah, we'll start with 1 year. And then,
Yeah.
Could the advertisement be circulated for a couple days before it goes out?
Oh, you mean let you folks see
Yeah,
it? Sure.
everybody-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
For comment before it goes out?
for sure, yes, it makes
And
sense.
through the Human Resources Director too?
Yeah, definitely will have a role. It'll be delegated there.
We want her imprimatur on it.
Any other questions? All in favor of that?
Did you have a second?
Yeah, no? Abstain or no?
Yeah, Larry and...
Which one are you
Don't have my
on?
hand up.
What are
All
you-
in favor, no, against? Abstention? Okay, Leon abstains.
There's one abstention.
All right. Okay, can we have a motion then to go into executive session?
So moved.
For
Second.
contracts and personnel?
So moved.
All in favor?
Did you get that one?